Welcome into Sports BIT. Betting Insight today, Pauly and Teddy. Tuesday, April 19th. Big game breakdown, only two NBA playoff games. We'll get to that in the Nationals and the Marlins deep dive. Curry versus LeBron, we'll explain. And, of course, the play of the day. We recap what happened last night. We start with the Pacers and the Raptors. First of all, the game stays under, and the teams go 23 of 25 and 25 of 30 from the free throw line. But, Teddy, were the Raptors good, or did the Pacers just fall apart? Because for the second game in a row, DeRozan and Lowry struggled.
Yeah, I mean, Lowry and DeRozan a combined 9 of 31, a combined 0 of 7 from three-point range. But Indiana certainly did not bring their A game last night, not even close. They stunk. And it was kind of the same story as game one. George Hill, the rest of the Pacers, a step behind all night. Look at the graph, Pauly. Mm-hmm. Paul George, the first two games, he's 20 of 37 for 61 points. He scored a third of their points so far in this series. That's not going to cut it. The supporting cast did not show up last night. And, of course, Indy also lost the boards by double digits in that ballgame. Got out-rebounded by 11, 44 to 33. That is going to be a continuing problem for the Pacers in this series. But the bad news for Indiana, even with Lowry and DeRozan both struggling from the floor, Pacers cannot take advantage.
What do you think of the series now that it shifts to Indiana for Game 3 Thursday?
I think that the win last night for Toronto was a win that they needed so bad they could taste it. And the fact that they were able to do it without their two superstars playing at a superstar level, I think that gives them confidence moving forward.
All right, and the biggest upset in the NBA playoffs in the last 20 seasons, Dallas catching 14. They controlled tempo again, and Oklahoma City does it again. Unbelievable. Up 7 with 6 minutes left. They score 6 points the rest of the game. KD and Westbrook combine 1 of 10 down the stretch, and the Mavs pull a shocker.
Yeah, and again, the tweet from John Shulman saying, right before it happened, as the Thunder, and again, I mean, a 7-point lead in the fourth quarter is not an insurmountable comeback for Dallas, but this was the second worst fourth quarter team outscored by more than 10 points per game down the stretch. They went 3-12 straight up in games that were within 5 points in the last 5 minutes after the All-Star break. These were the concerns we had about Oklahoma City going into the series, and I was mollified after game one. But the ineptitude from Kevin Durant last night, that was something special.
7 of 33, shot 21%, 26 misses. You got to go back to Jordan for most misses in an NBA playoff game. I mean, at one point, I think he was 5 of 24 or something. I mean, this guy couldn't make anything, and Donovan kept running plays for the guy. And how does Donovan run out of timeouts late in the game when they give you so many?
Yeah. Look at the numbers right here on the chart. Worst field goal percentage in a playoff game, minimum 30 field goals attempts in the shot clock era. So, obviously, the only guys taking 30 field goal attempts are your superstars. Well, Durant eclipsed Jordan last night. He had 2 wide open looks to win the game at the end.
Yep.
Couldn't hit either one of them. And then, of course, after they went down 4, he hit the look no problem. But superstars have off nights. Durant had one last night, but I don't think that this affects the series for OKC. But their psyche moving forward, I mean, this is something you and I have talked about a lot, Paul.
Yeah.
Maybe. This is a team that's not always that confident with a lead, and last night's loss is one more anchor that could hold them down the road. But, I mean, the interesting thing for Dallas, 2 injured point guards, no problem. Ray Felton was their MVP last night. Devin Harris, plus 17 in his 26 minutes on the floor. And as you mentioned, Mavs were able to control the pace. This is scary for OKC. Dallas controlled the pace. Dallas only shot 10 of 19 from the free throw line. They only shot 5 of 19 from three-point range. They only shot 42% from the floor, and they were -9 on the boards, and they won the game at OKC. That says how poorly the Thunder shot the basketball last night.
All right, and Golden State takes a 2-0 lead over the Rockets. No Curry, no problem. Tell people what you said Monday on the show.
Oh, yeah, yesterday on the show. I'm like, I'd rather lay 8 with Golden State without Curry than lay 13 with them. And of course, once Curry was announced as being out, that line got driven down. 8.5 was the closing number. Golden State wins by 9, gets the money for those who bet them late.
Yeah, that was more on that coming up about once the Curry news came out and what happened to the line and the total, and the game goes over as well. You said that money, that was a nice call as well. How about Major League Baseball here? The lot of runs scored in the Giant game, but other than that, all the National League games stayed under.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the bad bets and bad beat segment. Bad bet last night was National League overs. And this is not the first time this year that we've had every game. And obviously, Arizona San Fran went over late. But that was the only over in Major League Baseball that cashed on Monday. Not a good day for the offenses in the big leagues.
Yeah. How about Lackey? He got on track as they shut out the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, we were dead wrong. We got half. I shouldn't say we were dead wrong. We got half of it right. Chicago got their 5.
Yep.
But unfortunately, St. Louis could not do their part. Lackey threw a gem, and maybe one of the things that I think, again, we always like to post-mortem, whether we get it right, whether we get it wrong. You go back over your thought process, figure out would I make this bet again given the same circumstance? And the one thing that I missed there was the intensity of Lackey going back to Bush. I mean, he was coming with his A game, and boy, he brought it last night.
He had a great quote about Hayward being booed the entire game. He said, "I've been booed before. That was nothing. I know booing what went on in Boston for years." Big game breakdown coming up next. Only two games tonight.
We got one beat we got to talk about.
What happened?
It's the worst rule in all of sports betting.
What's that?
And that, of course, is the Twins and the Brewers.
Oh, very
good. I said
good.
only one over ticket cashed yesterday. Mm-hmm. Now, the Twins and Brewers, they scored 11 runs in 6 innings. The game went over 8 by the top of the 5th. But an over becomes a push when it's rained out. And when you talk to sportsbook directors around Las Vegas, you say, why does that happen? Mm-hmm. Why, when a game goes over the total, you pay the side. Why can't you pay the total, pay out your overs, keep your unders? The answer? Well, that's the way we've always done it. That's not a good answer, yeah. But that is what happens when a game gets rained out. Whether it's if the game stayed under, you couldn't pay that bet. And I think the fact that it's complicated is why they don't do it. But it's really frustrating when you have an over ticket in your pocket and it gets there early,
yep.
And you can't end up cashing that ticket. That is a bad beat for Twins, Brewers,
yep.
over bettors.
Very good there.
Many of them are out there.
Yeah, I've watched several people rip up tickets with that and run lines as well as a result with the weather. Big game
Well,
break.
You don't rip them up. You can still get a push, but it's not a winner.
I know, but people don't understand. They think if they had the under, they think it's a loser, so they rip it up. All right, big game breakdown up next. We'll start with only 2 games in the NBA playoffs. We'll get to that in 1 game in Major League Baseball, plus the deep dive on Sports BIT. Betting Insight today.
Visit SBRUFC.com to find the best odds and sportsbook bonuses available for UFC 197.
We're back for big game breakdown. We start with the first game. Celtics on the road to take on the Hawks. Atlanta 6.5, 205 at home. Looked like a thriller. I enjoyed game 1, but when you look at it, the teams were 16 of 62 from 3, and they averaged a missed shot every 24.9 seconds. Atlanta 5 of 24 from 3. Kyle Korver 0 of 7. That could change as now Avery Bradley's out. Could be out for the rest of the series. Definitely out for game 2. Now it becomes next man up for Boston, Teddy.
Yeah, and it's one of those 1-point decisions that, somebody hit a 3 at the buzzer. It was a 4-point game. Before that, it was Isaiah Thomas hitting that 3 to make the final score look really close. Even though, really, with 20 seconds left, Atlanta could have covered that game. But 2 late threes from the Celtics allow Boston to get the money. But what do we have, 116 missed shots in game number 1?
Jesus.
That's not pretty, obviously. But we talk about what works in the NBA playoffs. One thing that I know that works in the NBA playoffs is you bet injuries. The healthy teams survive and advance. The teams that are banged up, they don't. And look no further than the Warriors' run to the title last year, in which they beat up one banged-up team after the next, on their way to a championship. So this Avery Bradley injury, this is not a minor injury for Boston. Bradley may not be a household name You may not be familiar with him if you don't follow the Celtics closely, but he led the Celtics in minutes played this year. He led the Celtics in points scored this year. And he did all that despite missing 5 games. So we know that he's been carried off. We have to figure out next who gets carried on for Boston.
Yeah, some high praise here, Teddy. So earlier in the season, Lillard called him the best on-ball defender in the association. And then after they won at Golden State, how about this quote from Steve Kerr?
Yeah, he just puts a lot of pressure on the ball. He knows what people are doing, and he oftentimes jumps plays as if they're happening or before they happen. So I agree with Damian Lillard. I think Avery Bradley's as good of an on-ball defender as there is in the league. And, of course, Kerr said that the day before the Celtics won straight up at Golden State. And, of course, right after Lillard had called him the best.
Well, we'll see what they're able to do on Korver and some of these shooters. We know this. Game 1, Horford was terrific. He had 24 and 12. They also were led by Teague, who had 23 points and 12 assists. So that's Game 2 coming up tonight.
Sure, and remember, Brad Stevens was playing smaller, quicker lineups down the stretch. The Celtics did beat Atlanta by 13. They won 106-93 at home without Bradley back in November. They won the boards by 15 with a bigger lineup. But that's not the likely option this time. Look at the quote from Brad Stevens right here. I think that one thing about having a guy like Avery out is you've got guys like Marcus Smart and Evan Turner that have played the starter's role for us all year off the bench. So both of those guys are going to be critically important to replacing Avery or adding to what they normally do. When you talk about on the defensive end, certainly the issues that Atlanta had shooting three-pointers in game number 1, they may have a few more open looks for Kyle Korver, who was, as you mentioned, 0 of 7 from three-point range in that first matchup. That's bad news for Boston. But Turner's Turner, while he's never lived up to his number 2 overall draft status, Turner's a good player for Boston. He can handle the basketball. He can bring it on both ends. Marcus Smart has shown signs, but boy, he jacks up more than his fair share of bad shots. Just a dismal shooter, and he's not going to replace Avery Bradley scoring.
Yep, to the late game, Grizzlies and the Spurs. Spurs 18.5. If you want to use the zigzag, it's tough when there's no zag. We told you that the Grizzlies would get nothing inside, and they have all kinds of problems shooting the ball from the outside. So really, it's a tough series to handicap, Teddy, because you can't lay 18.5 in the association, but I don't want any part of the dog here.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of these games that we're going to talk about. I'm not going to have a dime on this game. I didn't have a dime on Game 1. I probably should have bet San Antonio in Game 1 because, as you mentioned, we knew it. We talked about the issues that Memphis is going to have and they're going to continue to have. This is a Grizzlies team that was number 27 in the NBA in three-pointers made, number 29 in three-point shooting percentage. And as we warned you on Friday's show, you can't score inside on the Spurs defense. The way to beat San Antonio is with perimeter shooting. Well, Memphis has no perimeter shooting, and they can't score inside. And, of course, they actually shot 8 of 18 from beyond the arc on Sunday. So they could definitely end up shooting worse in this one. But, when Pops look at the scoreboard tonight, Pauly, maybe more about the time than the margin. You got the graph there?
No, go ahead.
Sure. Look at the Spurs minutes for Game 1. And this is a game that was competitive for what? 10 minutes?
Yeah, give or take, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, plenty of time for Pop to get his starters off the floor. Look at the minutes. Starters played 117 minutes in game number 1. Reserves played 122 minutes in game number 1. I think it's something of an impossible game. You're not going to make money laying 18.5 in an NBA playoff game. And that being said, I don't want the dog. It's an impossible game. It's an impossible series right now. Interesting handicap, but from a betting standpoint, I don't think this is a real good one. I don't, especially now in the total all the way down to $1.87.
Yeah, how about that? Bad job by the NBA. Only 2 playoff games tonight. So we go to baseball. Nationals and the Marlins. Strasburg against Conley. Nationals $1.45 on the road. Total of 7. With Strasburg, he had those injuries, so it became out of sight, out of mind. But now new pitching coach Mike Maddox working with him here. He's 2-0 with a good ERA. You got some interesting numbers here on Strasburg, Teddy.
Sure. I mean, look at the numbers. Again, ground ball percentage matters. And we've talked a fair bit about the ground ball percentage on this show, both this week and last. What's up from Strasburg? He's 2-0. He's got a .98 ERA so far. His strikeouts per nine is down a little. But what's up are the number of ground balls hit against him, and most of them weak. Career ground ball percentage, about 46%. 2015, only 42%. So far, again, it's too early for the numbers to mean a lot, but so far, close to 62% of the hits against Strasburg come on the ground, and that's a great number for any pitcher. And of course, he set the Nationals franchise record for strikeouts in the win over Atlanta. And there are rumors and reports that he's using a brand new slider. This is a guy that had two fastballs, a changeup, and a curveball last year, and he very clearly had a fifth pitch the other night in Atlanta that certainly looked like a slider, even though he denied it.
How strange is this? This is the third time they've seen Conley already.
It is odd, but you see that in some of these divisional matchups where you're going to see someone over and over and over again, and it doesn't necessarily help you. I always used to think when I first started handicapping baseball, you see a guy 5 times, you're going to be able to figure him out. The short turnaround doesn't help, that's for sure. But when it comes to, you see a guy get lit up by a team and then he comes back against them 5 days later and shuts them down. I always look at the second, third, fourth time through against a particular lineup, but this early in the season, we just don't have a ton of that data just yet. But I'm going to talk about Mike Maddox real quickly here, Paul, because when you talk about coaching and, managers in baseball, there are a handful that make a difference. Pitching coaches in baseball, there's also a handful that make a difference. Mike Maddox went to Texas, and Texas had bad pitching. They were like the Rockies. They'd had bad pitching forever. The first year he's there, everybody's got a new pitch. The team ERA goes down by a full run, and lo and behold, stays there for the next 4 years, under 4 ERA. They hadn't an ERA under 4 in like 20 years before Maddox got there. There were some issues in the offseason. He decided he's going to go to Washington. Now, all of a sudden, Strasburg's developing a new pitch. This is a very good hire for the Washington Nationals. Mike Maddox, as a pitching coach, is a difference maker.
Up next, deep dive. Curry versus LeBron. Teddy will explain, and the play of the day on Sports BIT. Betting Insight today.
Visit SBRUFC.com to find the best odds and sportsbook bonuses available for UFC 197.
Wrapping it up on Sports BIT, Pauly and Teddy, play of the day coming up. Deep dive today, Curry versus LeBron. Who's the better player, and what do the markets say? So Golden State opened up 12.5, 221.5 the total. Bet up to 13.5, and the total bet down to 219. So it looked like Curry was going to play. Okay, let's bet it up. And then he didn't go to shoot around. He tested it before the game. He was shaking his head. He's not going to go. And Teddy, the line they hammered the Rockets and sent the line down, the spread, and the total with the Curry news that came out about an hour before the game.
Yeah, and I don't know if we're going to settle the who's the better player, Curry versus LeBron argument. What we want to do in this deep dive is talk about who is worth more to the point spread. And we've got a very clear number for tonight, as you mentioned. Open 12.5 and 221.5. Closed 8.5 and 211. So we're talking, but it was up to 13.5 once Curry was going to play. So we're talking about in the 4 to 5 point range for Steph Curry's absence. And, maybe it's only a partial adjustment because they got hit a couple of times during the day on Rockets and under based on some of the information that was coming out. Now, we've got point spread data, obviously, for every game this season and every game going back many, many years. But I just went through this season. Curry's last game missed was March 1st against Atlanta. The Warriors were bet down from 9.5 to 5.5. Once it was announced he was out. The total from 220 all the way down to 213. And of course, the game went over during the closing number by a single point in overtime, kind of like last night's game went over the number at the very end with all the late fouling. Golden State didn't cover in OT in that ball game, and last night they covered by a hook. So, Curry's worth a ton to the team. B, he's worth about between 4 and 5 points to the spread. We've got similar numbers. When he missed a game against Dallas, bet down from -8.5 to -3.5. That was back on December 30th. The next night at Houston, he missed. There wasn't a big line move for that one because everybody knew that he was going to miss that game. But of course, the Rockets went off as the favorites in that one. Golden State still won the game. So that's the Steph Curry argument. The markets are saying pretty clearly he's worth between 4 and 5 points depending on the game. Total-wise, he's been, they've been betting him down 6, 7, even 8, which is more than the moves we're seeing for LeBron.
Yes, so Curry, and when Curry's out, the Warriors have a good team, and they play well without him at times. With LeBron, since he went back to Cleveland, they've been a disaster, especially last year when he sat out games. What are some numbers when LeBron sits?
Yeah, and LeBron sat game number 82, but the whole Cavs team sat and the whole Pistons team sat. I kind of left that one out of the equation. But he missed March 16th. Darn it, I wrote down against Cleveland. I don't know who he missed against March 16th. I think that was the Wizards. No, was that the Wizards? No, it was a game before that he played the Wizards. Anyhow, the line got bet down 4 points, -9.5 to -5.5. The total only got bet down 2 points. The Cavs won by 1, didn't cover. Mm-hmm. LeBron missed February 28th versus Washington. That line only got bet down 3 points. The total got bet down 5.5 from 211 to 205.5. The Wizards won by 14. Again, the Cavs didn't cover. The other game LeBron missed this season, back on December 5th against the Miami Heat, Miami was chalk in that game. They were 2.5 at the open, 5.5 at the close. LeBron worth only 3 in that one, and the total moved only 3 points in that one. The Heat won by 15. Markets are moving LeBron 3 to 4 points when he's out. They're moving Steph Curry 4 to 5 points when he's out. I think we answered our question, Paul. Steph Curry is worth more to the point spread right now than LeBron James.
Yeah, and right now, Steph Curry's the better player.
I don't know about that, man. LeBron's
come
pretty
on.
good.
Hey, what's wrong with you, man?
LeBron's pretty good.
Hey, how about my boy Kawhi? Back-to-back Defensive Player of the Year awards. Come on.
Yeah, Draymond Green deserved it.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's a tough one. Come on. You're not going to give me Curry's the best player in the league?
I will not. I will not. LeBron James is unbelievable.
Oh, my God.
I'm not. It's an interesting debate. I think in another year or two, it'll clearly not be LeBron. But, you watch LeBron play the last 10, 12 games of the season. His A game's pretty darn good, Paul. Don't sell LeBron James short.
All right, let's go to Money Time, Play of the Day. Back to the playoffs. We started with this game in Big Game Breakdown. Celtics, Hawks, what are we doing, Teddy?
Come on, let's go to Atlanta, minus the 6.5. And again, the Avery Bradley injury, it's an impactful injury. I think it's going to impact the Celtics right from the get-go. And now all of a sudden, Kyle Korver may have a little bit more space to shoot. We all know what happens when Kyle Korver gets his space. Give me the Hawks, a minus 6.5. That's our sports bet play of the day.
I'd be shocked if he has another poor performance shooting in that one. Excellent job, Teddy. We're back on Wednesday. Ton of playoff action, NHL and NBA, and of course Major League Baseball on Sports Bet. Betting Insight today.